On the 28th of September, the tomb in the cemetery had been broken into, and the coffins been tampered with. I learned of this from Nana's husband, arriving at the tomb. I found Elena's sister Nana there with some other women, the sexton and undertaker Pritchard. Both of the latter assured me that everything was all right inside, as the inner coffin had not been opened, and that they had closed the outside casket, and that henceforth the tomb would be watched. Whereupon Elena's sister Nana insisted that the vault be opened, as she wanted to see inside the coffin. With this I flatly refused to comply. On the 1st of October, 1940, I was again called to the cemetery by Nana's husband, and there was Nana, urging me to open the coffins in the vault. This time there was more of a crowd. I had the only keys to my vault. Nana threatened that if I did not open the coffins for her, she would have them opened by order of the law. Suspecting her immediately of breaking into the vault in the first place, I absolutely refused to open the tomb any more, as there were no reasons to disturb the coffins. Nana then said spitefully that if she had her way, she would take Elena out of the tomb and bury her in a hole in the earth to rot like herself, and whatever Elena had said to me were lies. She did not want Elena to lie in this elaborate tomb, that she was no better than herself. Why should she lie in state? Let her rot in the earth like myself. I answered, You ought to be ashamed of yourself, talking like that at the grave of Elena. She is an angel, but not you, Nana. I can clearly see that you don't love her, nor are you interested in her safety. All you seem to be interested in is to strip your sister again of her jewels. That's why you broke into the tomb. The sexton had handed me a piece of rusty iron bent from the strain of wrenching the locks from the cement walls, and a pair of old rusty scissors, used apparently to dig the window panes out of the door. These I turned over to the sheriff for fingerprints. No fingerprints were taken, however. After a while, Nana spoke again, but this time plaintively. Please, open the tomb and let me see Elena inside the coffin, or I believe I will go crazy. If only I could see her to know that she is all right, I'll be satisfied. Well, this sounded sensible, and fearing that she really might become hysterical, and since she was the only sister remaining, I decided to convince her and let her see that Elena was perfectly safe. So I said to her, All right, Nana, I don't want you to go crazy. I will let you see Elena. Let us talk this over in peace and arrange it between ourselves. This is not a public affair. Where do you want us to go? She asked. Well, to your house, which is nearest from here, I answered. No, she replied, not in my place. Well then, let's drive down to my house. She agreed, and so we drove straight from my house on Flagler Avenue. At my home, she invited another woman, who was in the car, to come in, which, however, I vetoed, as she did not belong to the family. When coming inside my rooms, Nana stayed back near the door, while her young husband Mario came along with me to where Elena's bed stood. He exclaimed, Here is Elena's bed, Nana. I then invited Nana. Come here, Nana, and see how beautiful Elena is resting in her bed in her silken garments with all her jewelry. Come and see. She could not have it better anywhere. I think that will pacify you now. She came alongside and looked at Elena after I had lifted the curtains. After looking her over, she turned around. This isn't my sister. That's another girl you have here. Her husband, looking at her more closely now and feeling her hand and hair, said, Yes, Nana, it is she. Nana turned to me, said, How long have you got her here? It is now 7 years, I said. Nana gripped her husband's arm and said, Let's get out of here. I feel bad. Let's go back to the cemetery and open the vault to see what is inside the coffins. Her husband Mario answered excitedly, What's the use now? You have seen that she is here. But she persisted in pretending that it was not Elena, and Mario shrugged. I don't know what to do with Nana. She's crazy. I think so too, but you ought to teach us some common sense, I said. I am not going to open the vault and coffins, not after showing Elena to her. They both went to the car, but before going away, Nana called me. I want you to put Elena back into the vault, but I want to be present to see that she lies in the coffin. Do you hear? Elena and I will go back into the vault together when our time is up, but not right now. I don't see why you should worry about her now. You never looked after her for the past 9 years. She has been under my care all these years. I have paid all of her expenses, not you. You forget that I own that tomb with everything that is inside, not you." After this, they drove back to town. It was the last conversation between her sister and me, and it is the absolute truth, no matter what Nana said later on at the trial. I went back to Elena and said some soothing words to her, lest she be hurt that her sister would not acknowledge her. "She cannot injure us no matter what comes, don't worry, darling. And as Nana is only after your jewels, let me take care of them for you until the trouble is past. Then you will get them all back, sweetheart." She released them easily, and I locked them safely away in a little casket. On Sunday, the 5th of October, 1940, there drove up the fateful motorcade, headed by 2 sheriffs, then the Justice of the Peace, followed by the funeral car and several other cars, all halting at my place. The 2 sheriffs, stepping forward, knocked at my entrance door. When I opened the screen, the head sheriff presented a warrant on which I was charged with being in possession of a dead body. Politely he asked whether I was the person whose name was on this paper. I answered yes. This was my name. He then asked me to show him the body. After seeing the body in the bed, he inquired if it was true that I had this body in my possession for 7 years. I answered in the affirmative. "And who is she?" "She is my bride, Elena De Hoyos." He asked further whether I had a certificate for the body. "Yes, I have." "Show it to me, please." After getting out her certificate from Elena's records, I showed it to him. He shook his head. "This is her certificate of death. That isn't the certificate we want. I do not know of any other certificate required for the dead." "I am sorry. We have to take you to the courthouse, as you have no certificate. You may explain in court." So I followed the sheriff into their car. I noticed the funeral car driving up and 2 attendants stepping in my door. They carried Elena out in a wicker basket, putting her in the funeral car. This audacity enraged me. I made a move to stop them. The sheriffs held me on each side, pacifying me, telling me everything was all right, but I said, "There is no security for my house when strangers are going in and out at liberty. I protest against this violation of my rights." The sheriff answered, "We are having the body placed in the funeral home where it is safer until your case is settled. Then you may get it back. I will see that nothing is removed and lock the doors and bring you the keys." After bringing me the keys, the car started toward town, where I was taken to the courthouse. Now there began cross-examination by the sheriff, all about my past experience with Elena, her death, burial, and disinterment, reinterment in the tomb, etc., etc. Finally, he dug out the great old U.S. law statute book, showing me the paragraph under which I had been indicted, according to the warrant, reading it to me. "Accused of wantonly and maliciously demolishing, disfiguring, and destroying a grave." The sheriff was a kind-hearted man. I saw how his eyes filled with tears as he said, "I see there is a wrong being done to you. You are not guilty in the sense of the charges in the book. You did build the tomb and made it beautiful at your own expense. I am sorry, but we have to keep you here until the case is cleared in court." By this time, the place was crowded with photographers taking shots from right and left. It annoyed me, and I asked the sheriff why all the publicity. He answered, smiling, "They are photographers of the press." "Why do you permit this nuisance?" "Well, it is a custom. Our liberal government gives freedom to the press." Then came the order by Justice of Peace Esquinaldo that I be held on $1,000 bail until the court's disposal of the case. I was taken into the county jail for retention, but first I handed the sheriff Elena's jewel case to lock up in the office safe. I had picked it up at home before leaving, and I didn't like taking it with me to the jail. I also asked the sheriff to take care of my dogs, which he promised. This night in jail was hard for me. When I lay down on the cot, staring at that barred window, I finally prayed, "If this is to be my final end, then God, unite me with my Elena forever, as a spiteful world makes our peaceful existence impossible." A band began playing somewhere in the neighborhood. It was a cradle song, over and over again to lull me to sleep. Suddenly Elena's spirit was standing before me in her bridal dress, bending down, embracing and kissing me. "Suffer it for me, it won't be long, then you will be free." Then it was dark again. As she had become invisible, I turned over with my face against the wall, as I did not want to see the bars. I slept peacefully until morning. As soon as I woke up, a friend came. Looking through the iron-barred window, he comforted me, offering help. Shortly after breakfast, more friends arrived, offering help, asking me if they could bring some fruits and milk, and informing me that Frank would stay on my premises on guard day and night until my return. They promised to bring food for him as well as for the 13 dogs. Now this was quite a substantial help to me. I had not known I had such good friends. In the afternoon, a lady was brought in by the jailkeeper, who handed me fruit and sweets and also promised to see that my place and the dogs were taken care of. And in the evening I was surprised by the good Samaritan, Señorita Margarita, and a young Spanish friend who knew Elena well. She consoled me kindly, bringing cookies, fruit, sweets, and hot tea for my supper. With my Elena taken from me, I had felt utterly lost. Now I learned there were good people left in this world. This night the mysterious band again played the same cradle song somewhere nearby, and I had a good restful sleep and a feeling that I was not forsaken. In the morning again I noticed a friendly face looking in my barred window. After breakfast the chief sheriffs came to introduce Attorney L. Harris to me. He offered to defend me in court if I would give him the authority, which I gladly did. At noon, the keeper informed me that a whole crowd of young ladies had come all the way from Tampa who fought demanding to see me. But he said he could not let them come inside as there were too many and they would storm the whole place, so I should better go out in the yard to meet them. But don't forget, he said, they are all my girls. I went outside to the young ladies, all pretty girls, who shouted, "We have all come from Tampa to see you. We are cigar makers from the Tampa factory, and we have read all about you in the papers. We wish you luck and that you will win out and get your Elena back." "We are all for you," said one pretty speaker in a beautiful black silk dress. They were such a delightfully happy lot, and they all shook hands with me while I expressed my delight in their coming and thanked them for their kind wishes. Meanwhile, these good girls were making a collection among themselves, offering it to me, which I refused to accept, but was obliged to take, as they insisted. The kind offer proceeded from generous hearts, and it would have offended them if I had not accepted, so there was no use arguing. They finally took leave with kind and sincere wishes. How nice and sweet it was of these young girls, who were motivated by true benevolence. God will be with them all and bless them. In the afternoon came Father Moreau, the priest who baptized Elena. He offered his help, but I did not see any need for help for myself. "Oh, I am all right. The one who needs help and protection and who cannot defend herself is Elena, since she has been taken away from me." He said he thought she was safe enough while in the custody of the undertaker where she was now, but I had my doubts, and later it proved that I was right. Therefore I wrote a letter and sent it out by the warden to the Sister Superior of the convent, who knew Elena well before death, imploring the sisters to protect Elena while she was away from my care. A lady came from Miami to interview me, bringing chocolates and fruit for my supper, telling me she would stay for the court hearing before going back. In the evening Margarita came again, untiring angel, bringing nice hot tea and biscuits, my favorite food, and also presenting me with a rosary. Señorita Margarita knows me well from the hospital. Again the band played the same tune that night. On the 8th of October, Attorney Harris led me into the courthouse to a seat near the platform. It was to be a preliminary hearing before the Justice of Peace, Esquinaldo. The hall was packed with people. After the formal reading of charges against me by the state attorney, he called Mrs. Medina, Elena's sister, as chief witness. She told how I alone had the key to the mausoleum and always kept it locked up, and that I always refused to open it when she wanted to go in. The fact is that frequently I opened the tomb so that the relatives could go inside, but never once did they do so. She added that people had been talking in town, and she wanted to see if Elena was safe, but that indeed I had suggested to talk things over. So she and her husband went with me to my house on Flagler Avenue. There, she said, she caught a glimpse of the old wooden bed her father gave her when she was sick. It was I who bought this bed for Elena. Raising the curtains, she said, she saw the feet of the body. That's Elena, she quoted me as saying. I beg you to leave her to me. See how pretty she looks. Touch her little hands. She claimed to have answered, You have caused us lots of trouble. People are talking about us. They say you have a ring and talk to her by wireless. And I had answered, You don't have to listen to people. Also, she declared, she had given me an ultimatum, namely, that I must place Elena back in the tomb within a week, or else she would proceed against me. And at the end of the week, she got the warrant, which brought my arrest the following Sunday. Miss Medina, a friend of hers, corroborated her story, as did her husband, Mario Medina. Then Mrs. Sawyer, custodian of the Catholic part of the cemetery, testified to finding the glass door on the vault broken, and she had informed Mrs. Medina, which in turn prompted her to question me. Asked by the judge if she knew who broke into the vault, she answered, I don't know. Otto Bethel, sexton of the cemetery, verified the date of the burglary in the cemetery. Regional Pritchard of the funeral home, employed by me to conduct Elena's funeral and later disinterment for transfer into the mausoleum, was the only defense witness. Pritchard testified that Elena's father had signed the authorization before he died for a disinterment to be conducted under Von Cosel's supervision at his expense. Asked by the judge how much he thought I had expended on behalf of Elena, he said, close to $3,000. Asked how the remains looked to him now, he answered, If I went to see a wax figure at Cress or any other store, I would see the same thing. Elena's body, laid out in the funeral parlor, dressed in her blue silk robe with a rose in her hair and covered by a gauze veil, was the biggest sightseeing attraction that Key West had ever known. No less than 6,850 people viewed the body. Her little patent leather shoes reposed beside her stockinged feet. Now I had to take the chair. I gave my name, Carl Tanzler von Cosel, age 64, occupation chemist, engineer, physicist, scientist, röntgenologist, with degrees in philosophy, psychology, medicine, etc. Question: how I got acquainted with Elena, when and where I met her, and what Elena was to me. I answered that she was my patient, and later became my bride, and that I always regarded her as my wife since she accepted my ring. I had been in love with her the first time I saw her. I knew then she was the lady I had been looking for all my life. I told how I had envisioned her from my early youth, painting pictures of her before I had seen her. How she appeared to me in a vision in the old Cosel manor, also in Italy in Camposanto. How amongst the monuments and tombs I saw her form and features carved in marble, standing on the grave of a young woman. How, while still gazing, her living spirit appeared just behind the monument, and then it disappeared again. It was in Australia many years later when her spirit appeared in my residence in Sydney, right beside the pipe organ, her dark hair hanging over her shoulders, down to her knees. The spirit stayed in my house 7 days, walking with me every step. Then Attorney Harris interrupted. And then you came to Key West and found that lady, the spirit of your dreams, and lost her again, didn't you? Yes, sir, I said, but she is still with me now, right here in this hall. I told her no matter what happened to her, I would take care of her in life and death. This holy promise took complete control of my mind and body. She was my bride when she accepted my proposal of marriage, and I regard her as my wife. Her death has sealed our bond. Yes, sir, I said, but she is still with me now, right here in this hall. I told her no matter what happened to her, I would take care of her in life and death. This holy promise took complete control of my mind and body. She was my bride when she accepted my proposal of marriage, and I regard her as my wife. Her death has sealed our bond. I built her monument with my own hands and watched over her all these years so that nothing should harm her, and I think that I have done my best. What did you find when you disinterred her? What did she look like? There were plenty of maggots. Her body was teeming with them. Everything was a mess.
How long ago was it that you took the bones out of the crypt to your house?
It was months after they were placed in the tomb, pretty close to 8 years ago.
How did you remove Elena's bones from the crypt to your house?
I removed the casket from the crypt into a car outside of the cemetery and drove alongside the airplane, placing it in the cabin.
Did you meet anybody during this work? Did anybody help you? And if so, who was the person, as the casket must have been heavy?
No, sir, I did not meet a living person during my work, except the driver of the car outside who helped me to lift the casket up into the plane. That was all, and I don't know his name.
Didn't the taxi driver ask you what it contained?
No, he asked no questions. I paid for the service.
Did you not move the airplane to the beach afterward?
Yes, I did. Mario Medina did the moving.
Medina, is that true? Did you do the moving?
Yes, sir. I moved the airplane to the beach, but I didn't know that Elena was inside.
Harris questioned me. Did you have the idea that her spirit would unite with her body and commune with you?
Yes, so it did. Many times her spirit gave me advice, even about the organ, also technical advice. Whenever I do not know what to do, she tells me. She also told that this trouble was coming and asked me several times to hide her body. But I asked, why should I hide her? But she said, no more, and a week later the trouble came.
How would it affect you if that body were taken from you?
I would feel lost. I had promised her I would keep and protect her against destruction for the rest of my life, even at the sacrifice of my own life. It may endanger my own life.
How long do you think her body will last?
In the condition it is now. Indefinitely.
Do you think that there is still life in the body which could be resurrected?
There is always life left in the body which can be resurrected by special methods, such as incubation. But as I had been interrupted repeatedly, I could not complete my work, though partly successful. I can do better yet if I am left undisturbed in my research. On the 9th day of October, after the hearing, I was informed of the court's decision that I be held further under $1,000 bail until the next session of the criminal court 1 month later, on the charge of wantonly and maliciously destroying a grave and removing the body without authorization. This was read to me by Judge Lord from the law books. Also, I was informed that I would see Elena no more, as she was no relative of mine. I was just a friend, and that was all, and she was not going to be put back into the vault, but would be buried in the ground by the sister, Mrs. Medina. I was thunderstruck. This was not fair. This was monstrous. She to be buried again after all my work. Elena nothing to me. She who was everything to me. All I could stammer was, "It is the end of everything for me. I protest against this inhuman decision. You cannot do this. It means her utter ruin and a break of faith to my Elena. If I cannot have her back, I will abide by your decision, but I will carry on my fight to the highest court of the land to annul this decision." Later, Attorney Harris came into my cell with some moving picture agent who wanted to produce a film of the affair. Harris advising me to accept on a percentage basis because it would bring in money and he would place the bond to free me. But after I had given my consent to the undertaking, the man told Harris that, as far as he was concerned, I might as well stay in prison until he wanted me. The 10th of October, Thursday, I was called to the courthouse to be examined by 3 doctors for sanity by order of the court. They declared me perfectly sane. There could be no other finding, despite a few cranks who would like to see me declared insane. The doctors later examined Elena's body at the undertaker for signs of violation, which was the judge's order. This examination, too, proved negative, as they reported, the body being mummified. Visitors continued to call on me in the jail. They brought fruit and chocolate, and the sweet Senorita Margarita brought hot tea and biscuits for my supper in the evening again. And the invisible band still played that cradle song each night until I fell asleep. At last, on Saturday, October 12th, I was called by the sheriff to the office Friends had placed the bond for me, and not the moving picture agent. They were Benny Fernandez and Joseph Zorski, who had made the following statement.
Persons in Key West who recall the circumstances surrounding Dr. Von Cosel's kindly administration while Elena De Hoyos was in the hospital have implicit faith in his motives. In appreciation of the services he rendered then, for the devotion to the girl he loved, and because of the humanitarian aspects of this present case, I have followed my best judgment in assisting in furnishing bond for the defendant. We who know him think he should be freed of all charges.
Attorney Harris received many heartening letters from citizens all over the country, such as, "Will you please bring this letter to the attention of the proper authorities? Relative to Carl Tanzler von Cosel, we feel that the very fact that he preserved and kept a human body for a period of 7 years is proof of his abilities as a scientist. Furthermore, his investigation into the supernatural should be considered as humane and valuable and not as a criminal case. We resent any calumny as to his mental status, and we protest against the arrest and imprisonment of a man of noble character and intent. In these times, when the world's lust goes out to kill and to destroy, it is no more than to be expected that an innocent man suffers persecution. But if by a miracle a person like Professor von Cosel would succeed in restoring to life a deceased person, the greatest discovery of all ages would have been made. Even if his chances be 1,000,000 to 1 against success, it is worthwhile to try. Let not the 20th century prosecute a scientist in his research. Past history reveals that most of our great scientists have been unjustly treated by the majority, who could neither follow nor comprehend men who had the courage and intelligence to further the progress of the world. Summing up, we feel that Professor Carl von Cosel, since the laws of these states made it impossible for him to receive permission to carry on his line of research, has had no recourse except to do exactly what he has done. We feel that not only should he be liberated with compensation, but also that he should be permitted to carry on with his studies with the permission of the subject's custodians. Signed L and L and S of New York and Florida. I was free now. All I wanted was to go home. But my friends, Zorski and Benny, would not let me go. Their car was waiting outside to take me to their hotel, the Cactus Terrace, where I was invited to stay as their guest and recuperate a while, for I needed rest. They all tried to cheer me up, and they protected me from curiosity. Many tried to see me by all kinds of maneuvers, but in vain. I had had enough cross-examination and was tired of it. I sorely needed rest, though I never refused friendly conversation with honest people or with scientists. But all the time I was pining to be back in the room again where Elena's bed stood, despite the excellent comforts here in the hotel and the kind hospitality. There was a mysterious force, it was Elena herself, which urged me to come back to where she had been with me. So on October 19th, I went home to take charge of my premises and give Frank, who had been guarding the place day and night, a well-deserved rest. There I found, in the meantime, that almost half of my dogs had died, amongst them Granny, my good old faithful Granny. Out of the blue, the movie man reappeared. He wanted to rig up some kind of an outdoor stage in the woods close to the building for the purpose of producing a moving picture of his own, with me in it as an actor, which I am not. However, it proved a failure from the start. I did not approve of the whole silly performance. Besides, the contract had never been fulfilled. In my hour of need, this man had failed to put up the $1,000 bond for me, as he had promised to do. By hundreds and thousands, people came to see me at my hermitage in Flagler Avenue. The license plates of their cars represented every state in the Union, and there were visitors from the Bahamas, from Cuba, and from Canada. They were nice, kind-hearted people, all of them, and full of sympathy. It made me feel glad after this unpleasant experience. Folks came to shake hands with me and to see the airplane and the organ, to take pictures and even movies in Technicolor. I took this as an homage for my darling Elena, and it made me proud. Some asked for flowers, others took along some small discarded organ parts. Ladies begged for tiny bits of Elena's bridal dress for a souvenir. Even nails and screws of my laboratory were in demand.
I hadn't thought I would like visitors, but as it turned out, they did me a lot of good. Soon I was able to provide appropriate little gifts, pictures of Elena and some of the plaster of Paris death masks I had made from her. For months on end, this public interest set new records for traffic on the highways and on the toll bridges leading to Key West. People began to tell me that I had put Key West on the map. But although it was a pleasure and a comfort to me to find that I had so many friends, there was considerable physical strain involved in this, for they came as early as dawn and they kept on coming till late at night. I hardly had any time to get a meal, and they all wanted for me to tell the story, an impossible feat for me since the complete story takes hours to tell. But then I always did the best I could, and it was because so many friendly people urged me to write a book so they could read and keep the story that I promised them that I would do so when I would have the time. But at present I was much too busy. My knees had to serve me as a desk to write the book of Elena. Her body is gone, but then the casket is still by my side, and in it I have placed her plaster form of her body, clothed in the last of her 3 bridal gowns. The lid is lined with her pictures when alive, and at all times there are fresh flowers by her head, and the silver crucifix stands guard, and Elena's rosary is draped over the shoulders of our Savior. Human malice had dynamited my laboratory on the beach long before. Human meanness had plundered and torn down the very roof over my head. Human jealousy and hatreds have robbed me of the body of my Elena. They have even poisoned my faithful dogs. Yet divine happiness is flowing through me, for she is with me. Nobody could take her away from me, for God Almighty has united our souls. She has survived death forever and ever. She is with me. And every look at her picture and every thought in my mind is a silent prayer of thanks. Thanks to the Creator who let me to find her. Thanks that He gave me the strength and the knowledge to prolong her brief life on earth for nearly 2 years, to make it tolerable in its pains, and to salvage her beauty from the ravages of the grave. She is my everlasting joy. She is to me that supreme and divine joy which the great Beethoven tried to express, and couldn't enjoy and feel in the last before his death, his 9th symphony. God bless her. Ex tenebris lucem.